Okay, shoot or shoot. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Roll up. You ready? You fuck up. Okay, Dad. I'm trying to eat.
He's Logan Roy. Fuck off.
I'm trying to eat.
You perked up.
Okay. So, welcome
Hi.
to Achieve the Lifestyle. This is...
You're not going to introduce me?
No. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Janie Wilkinson. I'm a family practice physician assistant.
And I am Dan Brown. I am a strength coach or personal trainer, depending on what day you ask me. No, they're not the same. Okay. So what we want to accomplish here, the conversation that we're going to have today is about why we are starting this thing that we are calling Achieve the Lifestyle. Okay. Why? What got us here? What's our background? And why we feel that something like this is necessary. So if you haven't picked up, what you have here is a conversation. Oh, we're husband and wife, by the way. Okay. What you have here is a conversation between a healthcare practitioner and a fitness professional. Now, as we understand it, there's a sort of cohesion between the healthcare field and the fitness field.
There should be.
There should be a synergy of sorts where, these things go kind of hand in hand. Why? Because they both pertain to achieving an optimal state of health. Okay.
But I think the issue is that the current healthcare system has lost that motivation to try to achieve optimal health through preventative means, which I think the fitness industry does day in and day out.
Yes, we are part of a prevention strategy. So when we talk about prevention, we're talking about avoiding all the common ailments that people focus on our country in America, but all over the world are currently experiencing. We're talking about heart disease. We're talking about type 2 diabetes, a slew of other cancers, certain lifestyle related cancers. And then we're talking about having orthopedic issues and so forth. So all the lifestyle issues that lead to a poor state of health, the medical field treats, and ideally
/ enables.
There you go. And ideally, we in the fitness industry and the nutrition together, we aim at empowering people at preventing these issues. Now, are we achieving that as a healthcare field and as a fitness field? The answer is probably no. Okay, why? There's more information than ever out right now. You can find out any healthy recipe you want. You can find out any workout regimen you want. There's plenty of fitness influencers and plenty of really smart fitness people available to everybody on YouTube to tell you how to work out, but yet people are not doing it.
Because there's a lot of really good fitness people out there. There's a lot of really good healthcare practitioners. There's a lot of good dietitians, nutritionists, but there's also a lot of not good. And so I think your argument is that there's more information than ever for people to learn how to be healthier. Mm-hmm. Whereas I can see people being overwhelmed by, how the fuck do I get healthier when there's a million different ways to do it? Where do I start? So correct. I see that a lot with my patients. They don't even know where to start.
I think that's part of the problem. So there's a lot of look at me and a lot of information being thrown at people, but there's not like the strategy of it. So actually implementing it so that you can achieve a healthier state of being, that's where the shortfall is happening. So we, as a couple here, as a team, you'll hear that word a lot, we're hoping to empower people so that they can better strategize and implement things that help them get there. That's why we're calling it Achieve the Lifestyle. Right. Okay. So I think we should start, background, and I want you to start on this because you obviously have the more complex profession. So what got you into healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would actually tell people about, you know, the years that you've been in healthcare, and then we can get into what you see as common trends in healthcare.
Okay. So, why did I get into healthcare? Mostly is because I think the human body is fucking amazing and it's fascinating, and I've always been drawn to more biology, anatomy, physiology, all these things. So, natural progression for me to go into healthcare, and I enjoy helping people, which is the very stock answer.
So you were a science nerd in high school.
Yes, I was a science nerd. Yeah. So,
Okay. So were you like raising your hand in front of the class?
oh, I took a
geeking
summer
out?
class to get ahead in science in high school.
Oh, you a nerd. Okay, so there you have it. There's that.
So, I first started as an EMT. So I worked for an EMT in a pre-hospital setting, so in an ambulance, and then also functioned as an EMT in an ER for, I would say, two to 3 years. Got accepted into PA school, and then became a physician assistant and been practicing as a PA in primary care for over 10 years. So we're looking at, been in the healthcare profession since 2007.
Okay,
so
that's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely that's not insignificant amount of time that you've
Right.
been managing people's quote unquote health or
Right.
sickness, if you will, depending on how you look at it.
Right. And I just remember from the beginning, mostly in PA school, being fascinated with how much is preventable and how much power and prevention that there is. Like, we as people can do things to be healthy and not need a lot of the current drugs, surgeries, a bunch of things. And I think one of the things I pride myself in is my goal is to make my patients, not make them, but help them enable their own health to the point where I don't need to see them very often. I don't want to see them very often because I want them to be so healthy. I'm either here for emergencies, I'm here for things they can't figure out on their own, or just once every year, every other year, like, hey, how you doing? Let me get your baseline, make sure I know who you are, what your normal is, so I can see you when you're abnormal and know that there's a difference. So
Fair. I think so. What now, over 10 years of healthcare, what do you think, like, trends that you've seen in the population? Where the majority of people that you see, why are they coming to you? I think would be worth, pointing out. Because there's a lot of issues amongst the general population, and people, we don't tend to know where they're coming from, but then there's usually, or a lot of times, let's not generalize too much, there's a very simple answer.
Yeah. I will say that if they don't come see me for their main complaint, what a common thing is, people are tired, fatigued, they're tired. And I personally love seeing people who come in and who are like, I'm fatigued. Most other healthcare practitioners, if they see fatigue on their schedule, they'll be like, oh God, I don't know what to do. But I'm like, awesome, because it's probably lifestyle and we can fix that. And so, I see a lot of people are just, they come in because they don't feel good, and not because they have a cold, but they, at a baseline, just do not feel well and they want to fix.
I think there might be something there if it is because they have a cold, and then the cold's like more recurring type of thing. Could there be like issues with
then you're looking
function,
at immune function,
as
but
it like reduced because of certain lifestyle metrics are not there, like what nutrition, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm talking like if somebody, their nutrition's not good, they're gonna feel tired. They're eating too much, they're gonna feel sluggish. They're eating too little, they're gonna feel sluggish. If they're eating just poor quality of things, you're not gonna feel well. That folds over into sleep. If they're not sleeping well, they're not gonna feel well. If they're not moving their body on a regular basis, they're not gonna feel well. If they're under a lot of stress, so the mental health aspect, they're not gonna feel well. And then the stress can influence all the other things. And then you're right, if they don't take care of themselves, they're more susceptible to environmental illnesses, whether it be viral, bacterial, whatever. Certain, obvious example, if you're a current smoker, you're likely going to get more sinus infections. Just the congestion's going to be there, which means you're going to get more antibiotics, which means you're going to destroy your gut flora, which means you're going to have more immune issues. So, just it all snowballs.
And it's crazy too how some treatment can then generate other issues down the road. And then if you're a recurring visitor of the doctor and band-aid, eventually the band-aids start working out against you.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's crazy shit right there.
Yeah.
I don't think it takes a while to have those epiphanies, I feel like, and then even when you are quote unquote in the know, you could still be messing yourself up or working against yourself when it comes to achieving optimal state of what we're going to call optimal health.
Right.
Now, I guess it's worth noting, because we'll drop that term a lot, optimal health. What is optimal health, or what do we see? And what would most quote unquote experts agree on that is optimal health? I would say there's a body composition aspect to that, body fat percentages, and I'm not talking BMI here because we know that BMI is a little bit skewed. It's not the best depiction of body composition, whereas I don't know, somebody with a high level of muscle mass can end up being considered obese per BMI standards. So we always caveat that, but it is a metric that tends to give you a better guideline as to how we're judging body composition. So I would say body composition is definitely a measure of optimal health, and it's not just am I skinny, because you can be skinny and have your body fat percentage be fairly high, that term skinny fat. So that's not healthy either. We can be skinny and be a type 2 diabetic. We can be skinny and be a smoker. We can be skinny and have all slew of orthopedic issues because we don't move.
Right.
Okay. So that's one metric that I would put on there. With that, what are we consuming? So we're talking about the metabolic issues there, where, blood sugar, where's that at? Blood pressure, where's that at? That sort of thing. What else would you put on there?
Triglycerides.
Yep. Triglycerides is on there as well.
And to the body composition, waist circumference is a
waist circumference is a good predictor of future disease and current metabolic state. Quality sleep, things like that, like are we getting enough sleep? Mental health aspects, anxiety, depression, what are we dealing with there, and how does the other lifestyle factors affect that as well? Relationships, that's definitely something that has effect in your current, if you're in a shitty relationship, you're going to be stressed. And if you're chronically stressed, then you might start holding on to weight, you might start not sleeping. So you see how all of this stuff is together. So we're definitely including that in that basket of optimal health. What else would you say is something that falls under, like where we're at
for optimal health?
Time outside, exposure. That's definitely another one.
Avoiding inactivity.
Avoiding so movement, a lot of movement, and that if you're going to have an ideal body composition goal, you're probably going to be a mover. So that's part of the thing. I just
think sometimes we get so focused on body weight or body composition that I see it's the common thing with my patients. They come in and they're like, I want to lose weight. I want to, fit into this box, right? But they don't think about, I want to sleep better. I want to eat better. I want to move my body more. They just want the end result.
Which all of that compounds to a really good end result.
Right. So I don't I think spending more time focusing on how do we get to a healthy body composition is going to make you healthy. We don't need to just focus on having a good body composition.
Yeah. And another thing is we don't want to get to a quote unquote healthy body composition and then everything else is trash, at the expense of I crashed myself into it by eating too little, or I over-exercised myself into it by working out like a mad person for a month and then I stopped. So if we follow the tagline. It's achieve the lifestyle. We're basically letting you know that this is a long-term commitment, and we want to find the combination of things that help people achieve, okay, get to this place where they consistently make the better choices and positively affect their overall health for the long term. So I don't just want you to think about doing it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month until I drop 10 pounds. I want you to think about doing it from now until they throw dirt on you.
Okay.
Pretty
So
much.
no, but I think we kind of got lost a little bit. So I think you should introduce yourself and why you're into it, because I think that connects with what you just said.
Yeah, and I was a long way about getting there. Yeah. So
You do that a lot.
yeah, I go on tangents and I get distracted. I get squirrel syndrome. So I am not a science nerd. I was never a science nerd. This is amazing. The fact that what I do now actually is kind of scientific as a fitness professional is the mother of all ironies. So in high school, I was an athlete, casual, nothing special, just casual athlete. And I kind of somewhere there young, I think I got like obsessed with six packs and like muscle and things like that, muscle and fitness, and looking at the magazines at the grocery store and how do I get a six pack? And this is, middle school, high school, obviously, if you had a six pack.
You're starting way back.
Yeah, I threw it back. Because you were talking about your fascination with science in high school, right, and how you were like advanced and stuff. So my thing with fitness started pretty early. I think it was like a Van Damme movie where I saw him do a split, might have been Bloodsport, and he's all ripped up, and I was like, how do I get that? I think a lot of fitness professionals, especially those that are my age, that grew up like in the 90s and stuff, will say that. They will say Rambo, Schwarzenegger, they'll say Van Damme, like they saw that and they're like, oh, how do I get there? So that was me. And a lot of it was, how do I get a six pack? So it was a curiosity. Now, fast forward to college, I went into college and no, I didn't study fitness, but I got fat in college. I got fucking fat. Like freshman 15, I think I had like freshman 45. Yeah. I stopped playing sports in high school. My last year of high school, I really wasn't playing sports. I was just being a little asshole, whatever, doing whatever. Then I got into college, and then there's the college lifestyle. It's drinking from Thursday to Sunday, and this is in Puerto Rico where I went to school, so you drink a lot. Cigarettes, all this crazy college stuff, and I got really out of shape. Eventually, when I found a little bit more direction in college, I decided to join the military. And so for context, right now, I weigh 206 pounds of pure muscle. No, just kidding. But back then in college, where I did not have the fitness pedigree that I had right now, it was 220. Mm-hmm. And my friends were making fun of me, like, bro, you got this big ass gut. And I didn't see it. So I get this, where people kind of get lost, where they don't understand just how out of shape they are. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see it. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then one day I told them, I was like, listen, when I weigh 200 pounds, I'll start working out again. Because my close friends that I've had for forever had seen me as an athlete in high school, with a six pack, like that sort, and seen me working out all the time, and then being this fat guy in college. So when they were making fun of me, I didn't think anything of it. So that day when I got home, got on the scale, and I was 220. I was like, oh shit, I got to do something about this. And that started like getting into things like Men's Health, like the magazines, and reading about diets and this sort of thing. Eventually, I decided to join the military, and it became a process of me getting myself in some sort of shape to be able to pass a basic physical fitness test in the military, because it was terrible. It was abysmal. The first time I tried to run a couple miles is ridiculous. So this process of me getting myself in shape for service, okay, I went from really fat to very lean and mean, very much an endurance type of athlete, above average physical fitness by military standards once I joined the military. And then it became about me passing that on. And how did I get here? To my troops, to other people, in ROTC, other cadets, like basically helping other people get in shape. And through my years in the military, my hobby has always been fitness. First, it was very selfish. How do I get myself in even better shape, and even better shape, and even better shape, so that I could do badass things. And then as I left the military, then it became a matter of like, you know what? I think I want to help other people do this. So I transitioned into a career eventually in fitness. And now where my passion lies in, you know,
You're just gonna glaze over the fact that you were a CrossFit coach.
yes, I've
You're
coached.
just gonna glaze right over that.
Yeah. Controversial, yeah. But I started coaching CrossFit. That's how I started. Part-time. And I had, you know, when I was still in the military, then I moved to another job and I still was coaching CrossFit part-time. Then eventually I made it a full-time thing of, you know, decided to take the jump because that job satisfaction with what I was doing outside, it just wasn't there. And I just felt a calling to get into fitness. So I jumped into it full-time. Since then, it's been transition from CrossFit into more of the strength and conditioning and personal training type of thing. I've worked with collegiate athletes, teenage athletes, and people as old as 93 years old. I had a recent client who was 93 years old.
That's amazing.
Okay, so yeah, which is amazing. Yeah, so it is. I've seen the gamut of fitness from performance-based for military, performance-based for high school or college athletics, to general fitness, to people looking to lose weight, to people looking to get even better levels of fitness, and people just trying to basically restore some function so that they can improve their quality of life.
Yeah.
And now where I see this going is I look around and see people when we go to the grocery store, people that come to the gym, and see like this decline in the overall health in the population. So where I see that now, it's like, okay, how do we get people to think about their health and actually do something about their health, and then do it for a long time? Because I don't want you to come into the gym and tell me like, Dan, I'm going to hire you. I need to lose 20 pounds. And then you drop those 20 pounds. And I mean, and do you even need to lose 20 pounds? Or do we need to lose 10 and get 10 of muscle? You know, so because that's important. And we'll talk about those details down the road. But I don't want to see the revolving door that a lot of gyms are, where people come in and they get X result, they lose 10 pounds, and then they leave and don't work out until they come back and they're 20 pounds heavier. They came in to lose 10, they drop it, leave, come back a year later, now they're 20 pounds heavier, now we need to lose 20. And we play this tag game because they never bought in to the lifestyle and the long-term aspect of, oh, this is what I do. So that's where we want to bridge that gap and empower people to be able to make that connection and then fucking stick to it, you know? Stick to your guns on that.
Yeah, that's why I always kind of shudder a little bit when I have patients ask me, like, what's my ideal weight? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I could go off of, like, I'm sure the CDC or somebody has something somewhere that if you're, you know, I'm a 37-year-old female, 5'7", 5'8", on a good day, what should my weight be? But I don't subscribe to that, because I think if you're sleeping well, you're eating well, like good quality food, moving your body well, managing your stress well, and all these things are in play, you're probably at a good weight. I'm not going to say it's like the perfect, could you make some tweaks, things like that? Sure, but you're probably quote unquote healthy, or in that direction.
Yeah, and a lot of those guidelines for weight, when they set those, we're probably talking about back in the 70s, when jogging and like things like that were really popular.
But then we also see the stats from the 70s or 80s till now, overweight and obesity is going up.
Oh yeah, so and that's a separate thing. Basically what I'm speaking to is the fact that this ideal weight chart is what's the word I'm looking for? Horseshit.
I mean, I said I don't subscribe to it, which is a little bit more classy, but anyway.
It's fucking horseshit. Yeah. So, you know, and I can give you an example of military height and weight. Like, this is very fresh in my memory. Whereas my height, you know, I'm 5'9", supposedly, maybe 5'10". But by military standards, I should have weighed 170 pounds. Now, early in my career, I weighed 155 pounds because all I would do was run distance. I was a light. Yeah, I was a small guy. Very big head, long skinny arms, long skinny legs, an 8-pack, but just tiny. And then later on, I started lifting more weights and stuff like that. I actually was 185 pounds. So if you weigh more than what they think you should weigh when you check into your physical fitness checkups, then you got to get measured to make sure that your waist circumference, they kind of calculate your body fat percentage in an old school like tape and measure way. And then they let you know like, yes, you're within standards, or no, you're not within standards. Now think about that. I'm 206 now. There's no way I could make 170 pounds. And back then when I was 185 at, in that military weight, I was getting taped. I was getting set aside like, oh, you're overweight. But then I take my shirt off and I have an 8-pack. So am I meeting the standard or not? Make sense?
Yeah.
So this facet, and that's just an example, this fascination with weight is misguided, to say the least. And it's misguided because of the standards that were put forth. And it's misguided because society, and it's misguided because, you could essentially, we go back to what we talked about in the beginning, the body composition, that matters more than necessarily the weight. If you weigh 190 and you're 20 pounds overweight, quote unquote, in your mind, and then I show you 190 pounds and you're carrying a decent amount of muscle, that you can see, and it's very, toned, if you will, and your body fat is down to a certain percentage, are you mad that you don't weigh the 20 pounds less? I'm gonna go ahead and say no.
But to what I said earlier, I think we need to stop focusing so much on the weight, because I think that, I know you don't like it and you're saying the body composition, but people are preached about that so much, but they're not preached about how are they healthy to have that composition. I think that's what we should focus on more.
And part of that is a mindset thing, and that's what we're gonna get at, like building the mindset of what is actually healthy and what can I actually sustain. That becomes another thing. I feel like with fitness, people adopt regimens or habits that are not sustainable because they believe that that's what's going to get them this result that they think they need to have in their mind quicker. And then what happens is you crash and burn, and then 2-3 months from when you started, you're not doing a damn thing. So you're right back to where you started. That happens a lot.
And it's interesting how people who do take their health into their own hands on a daily basis, like for me, for example, I'm at the gym more days of the week than not. And I have been asked more than once, like, what are you training for? Like, what are you trying to do? I'm like, I'm fucking live. I don't know what you want me to say, but I see all too often that, I hope to live a very long time. And so many of my elderly patients, they're weak, they're frail, they're falling, they need assistance getting up. And I'm not talking for reasons that are acute. I'm talking for just because long-term weakness. And I don't want to do that. I don't want anyone to do that. I want everyone to be as strong as possible for as long as possible.
Ooh, that's bars right there. You're right. That's bars.
And that means putting in the work now to keep and maintain muscle, however that looks for you.
Yes.
Keep and maintain is the same, but I meant to acquire and maintain muscle.
Okay. Yeah. You dropping bars over there.
Okay.
You're dropping bars. That's pretty good. I want to dissociate working out and eating right with temporary.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's definitely number one. I think that I'm hoping that we here at Achieve the Lifestyle.
I think that one of the things that social media has been great about promoting is the mental health aspect of working out.
There's the improvement of it, or
how working out or being physically active
plays a part in your.
It plays a part in your mental health.
I agree.
And in or out of the gym, you can go on a walk outside every day, and that can do wonders. So
yeah, and here's another thing. Now that you mentioned that it just rang me. I think there's no style of working out that's going to give you, it's like, oh, I want this, so I need to work out in this style. I don't think that is a thing either. The style of working out that you need to do is the one that you actually do.
Right. And
granted, there's better options within that.
Yeah.
Like there's a spectrum of options, but there's doing nothing, and then there's all these options for working out, and we just want you to pick one and stick with that.
Yeah. And so current guidelines per the CDC is 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise, and I can't remember how much strength there, but they are recommending sort of strength and resistance because that is becoming more recognized as a means for being healthy.
I think the science on resistance training is undisputed. Like at this
point, but and I think a lot of people in the fitness industry will say that mainstream healthcare lags behind
scientific research lags behind the practice, what's actually happening down on the line.
Right, exactly.
Like the front line of it, of fitness, what's happening here and what the researchers are kicking out usually tends to be behind what's happening down at the line. Like there's people doing stuff right now that the researchers haven't even got to researching.
Right. And so
and they're getting results, which is what matters, because you can do any crazy old shit. They're getting positive results.
Yeah. And so the mainstream healthcare societies do promote regular exercise, yet the majority of my patients that come see me are inactive. And I was just telling Dan yesterday how I was counseling a patient on, her blood work was normal. There's some abnormalities, but for the sake of this, it was essentially normal. But she was inactive and her body weight's up, so she has a 50% risk of developing diabetes based off of inactivity. And I don't think that that's told to people by their healthcare professionals enough. And probably because most healthcare professionals aren't healthy.
So shots fired.
So I think the most alarming thing, I can't say the most alarming thing, but one of the most easily obtainable, low-hanging fruit, but alarming things is the level of inactivity that is plagued the nation. If not the world.
What's crazy about that I talk to a lot of people. So when we assess people, potential clients, conversations that are had around the gym, I talk to a lot of people that have flirted with working out at some point. Rarely do I get somebody who hasn't done anything ever.
I get a lot of that.
You get a lot of that?
But you're getting people who are walking into the gym, which is a huge step than I get.
Yep, so I'm getting people that are a bit more proactive. You're right. You're getting people that have never set foot in a gym. So you have a bigger swath of the population because not everybody needs a gym, but everybody might need a doctor at some point. So you get a larger swath of the population. Now, in having conversations around fitness, which is what troubles me, it's like, to me, in my mind, once I started, I never stopped. Through injuries, it really resonated with me, this idea of being, wow, I'm losing weight, I'm doing badass shit. My mile times back then, it was running for a military test, and I started the first time I ever tried to run 2 miles, which used to be the standard distance that the Army would run. It took me like fucking 20-something minutes. I was dying. And then I was hurting for days after that. It's terrible. And for context, at my best, I was running it in 12.
Yeah.
Which is above average for the
military. What is it now?
They still have the 2-mile run, but they made it a little bit slower because they have all these other tests that they have to do. But back then it was 13 minutes. If you were 17 to 21, you had to run it in 13 minutes flat to max it out to get 100% on your run.
Okay.
So, that's booking it. If you can run 8-minute miles, I say for the general population, to say that running is the standard of, by any means, you don't need to be running this. But if you can sustain aerobic activity for 8 minutes at a decent pace and cover a mile, that's pretty good. That's just one standard, one metric.
You see that guy who recently broke the marathon record? You said 13 minutes, but he's sustained like a 13-mile-per-hour pace for the entire marathon.
Yeah, I think he was running 4 miles an hour.
And that
or no bullshit. That's 4-minute miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I at my best I run at 5:50.
Yeah.
So just to think of somebody who could run it in 4
Repeatedly.
for 26 miles is insanity. That is insane.
Anyway, side note, sorry.
Yeah, we got that is
but
crazy.
Yeah. So
if you told him to run 1 mile, he probably run that bitch in 3 something. It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see how fascinating this is, what you're actually capable of. Now, we're not using running as the gold standard, but we're saying that there's a lot of capability within this thing that you were issued at some point and you live in, so why would you not want to explore that?
We're built for movement? No. No, but to nerd out a little bit, we're made for movement. We're bipedal. We have this amazing ability to sweat. We don't have a lot of hair. And so long distances at a steady state is what we're made for. Yet,
there's like
don't want to move at all.
No, and not exploring. It's almost like I feel like you have a duty to explore what your body is capable of and maximize what your body can do. If not only because you're capable of it, so if you can walk, if you have both arms and both legs, you're lucky enough to have that. These are, quote unquote blessings. You're in a good position. I can walk, I can move my arms, I got all my toes and fingers, then I should probably put them to good use.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about walking to the fridge and getting a fucking snack. I'm talking about doing some meaningful shit with it. So there's, why not use that? And then if I told you that your quality of life over time was going to be affected by your decision to not do so, whereas, we could fast forward and show you a glimpse of what it looks like when you don't maximize the potential of your body. Now you're at the doctor every week, you're 60 years old and you're on hundreds of medication, gazillion things of medication, and you need to be at the doctor every week. You need to have somebody manage your care all the time, and you can barely get around. Your quality, pain is another one. People are afraid, like, oh, my shoulder hurts. Oh, my knees hurt. And it's like, did you have a traumatic injury? Did you fall? Did you slip? Did you hit something? Like, no, it just started hurting. Because you ain't doing shit. And your body's letting you know that it needs to move,
And even if there's something going on that caused your issue, some independent factor that it's not related to lifestyle, which are very small, there's no way that lifestyle optimized won't help that. And I think that's what a lot of people, so back pain, for example, and I know a lot of people in the fitness industry, you have a herniated disc, never lift over 200 pounds again of the lumbar spine, disc of the lumbar spine. Mm-hmm. You're never going to lift over 200 pounds. Don't ever lift weights again. It's, wrong. That's wrong.
I wonder where they got that number from too. That's such, you can't lift over 200 pounds.
I mean, I'm sure it's a number I picked. I don't know.
No, but I've actually gotten that from a medical professional.
Okay.
When I had a slight,
maybe it's just subconsciously programmed into me.
It was a slight little injury, and it was nothing. It was really like turned out to like a little spasm of a muscle. Yeah, thank God. But I thought it was like, oh my God, it's serious. Because I've never had to deal with that. And then the practitioner told me, he's like, oh, you shouldn't be lifting anything over 200 pounds. What?
Right.
How do I move a couch? How do I, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
But where did that number come from?
And maybe not lifting 200 pounds, but just, if you look at the recommended treatment lifestyle for arthritis, whether it be of the spine or the knees, walking. Walking is the number one way, because, something I say to my patients, which is very cheesy, is motion is lotion. You gotta move. And so I sound like a broken record every day at work. just, taking my handful of pebbles to, optimize diet and exercise and just throwing it into the ocean of what everyone's doing.
and I, there's a lot of people talking about all these topics. There's a lot of fitness influencers, there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of healthcare people that are talking about this stuff online right now. We can go on Instagram and search a hashtag and find thousands, potentially 1 million people.
But then why aren't people subscribing to it more?
Well, and that's why we're 1,000,001, because there's probably there's still a lot of ground to be covered. And like I was saying, we started earlier, in an era where there's so much information available at your fingertips, you could potentially solve all your own problems in a couple of minutes, sitting and researching. Hey, I need to do a little bit more workout. I need to eat more like this. I need to maybe get to bed earlier, and you can find all this information. But I think what's missing is the strategies and that focus on let's focus on how we get you to achieve a version or adopt a version of optimizing your own health and fitness. How do we get you to take responsibility for your own health and not think that, it's your healthcare provider's responsibility to get you healthy and you have no part in this other than doing what they tell you and taking the pills they tell you, if you even get there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, in traditional medicine, people go to their healthcare professional for advice because they're like, okay, this is wrong. What do I do to help? And more often than not, we as healthcare professionals don't give them the correct information. We, glaze over lifestyle and we go right to pharmaceuticals or quick fixes. And because in part, that's what patients want. And in part, that's what we're educated more on. I recently did a CME on type 2 diabetes in children because it's on the rise. And if that isn't terrifying, I don't know what is. But the first line therapy is lifestyle modification. It's a little bit more challenging in children because you have to get the whole family on board. But there was a paragraph on lifestyle modification, pages on the pharmaceuticals available. So we aren't taught. And, I put my little comment because I'm just, a little bit of, an asshole, like, this is wrong. But I put in the comment, like, what would you have liked to see from this CME? Like, it's not hard for me to tell people what medications to take and how to take them and the side effects of them. I can look that up in a matter of seconds and regurgitate that information to the patient. What's hard is how to develop the skill to talk to patients, to talk to their families, how to get them to make change, or how to facilitate them to make the changes they need to make so that they, they're not a 12-year-old who now has to be on metformin or give themselves injections.
Ooh, that's sad.
Like, so I think it's a huge disservice of healthcare education from medical schools, healthcare, medical bodies for continuing medical education, and also the providers at the time of the visit and sharing with people. Because I think people go to their healthcare providers, like I said, to seek help, and then we fall short in providing them with the necessary help. And so then they turn to the internet. And like, yeah, you said you can go on, Instagram and find a ton of stuff. So say I'm a woman looking to lose weight.
Yeah, but how do you implement that?
Right. And I go to my doctor and they're like, eat less, exercise more. Bye. And you're like, oh, okay, shit. All right. So I go on Instagram and then I see like the eat 1,200 calories a day, which, I have a very good friend who's a dietitian who cringes at people who eat 1,200 calories a day because that's not sustainable. Or they have them do these super high intensity exercises, which got hugely popular. CrossFit, I did CrossFit. We both did CrossFit. I fell victim to over exercising, under eating. And then that causes a whole slew of issues. So I think that there's a lot of miseducation out there, or people who have the right motivation, but maybe they're not the right information. Yeah. And so it's hard for people to find the right stuff. So what I really hope to do is, because I only see a certain amount of patients a day, and I get a lot of people who they come, they took time off work, they came into the doctor's office, and if I don't give them a pill, I'm a horrible provider. When I actually pride myself of taking people off medications. And so my hope is to just spread the word on a more accessible level, and to get to more people to seek care from providers, but also screen your providers who are actually going to help you, and also maybe give you better avenues to find that information on your own outside of the medical field.
I think you have an opportunity to kind of change or affect what people see as basically setting the criteria for picking a healthcare provider. Because
Right.
If you show up and they're already I'll get you on this pill, get you on that, right off the rip, without even asking how, what, why are you experiencing these symptoms, and exploring back, because the answer might be something like you said. It might be a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
Where like, hey, stop doing this, and you might see an improvement in this. And if you don't, then we come back and start looking at pharmacological interventions, where people, they skip that over and they don't really take that into part. I think you have an opportunity to, is that a good healthcare practitioner? And is that somebody that you would want managing your care?
Right.
Me personally, as a consumer of healthcare, which thank God I don't have to be at the doctor all the time, but whenever I walk in, girl, stop. Girl, stop. So, but whenever, the times, and this is something that I did from before. I've always been a little bit more on the skeptical side of like, which, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been the case for me since college. I didn't really want to go to the doctor, whatever. And then in the military, when people, when we'd have to see the doctor, I was just never in a place like, hey, doc, tell me, and I'll do it. I'm always like questioning more, like, hey, you think that's a good idea? Blah, 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 what about this? Yada, yada, yada. And really, the only medical practitioner that I really was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what you said, was a physical therapist lady. She had more rank than me. She was a field grade officer, and she was in shape. So obviously, when she started talking, I'm listening to her, because she looks. I tell her, hey, I'm experiencing an injury, like a discomfort. It wasn't necessarily an injury from, all the activity that I'm doing. And the people up to then that I had dealt with they didn't look like they worked out.
Mm-hmm.
They was just like, oh, you need to stop what you're doing, take 6 weeks off, sit, just breathe for 6 weeks type of thing. And then I run into this one lady who looks like a physical specimen.
Right. I'm
like, okay, I'm interested in what you have to say. So necessarily, like these things where you choose, when it's time, if you have a choice in your healthcare provider, laying out the criteria of like, hey, this person does this, this, and that, or they have this, this, and that, and they have this approach. What's a better approach? What's an approach that's not going to fit me? That sort of thing. Right. I think you have a unique opportunity to kind of influence that for people. What is a good provider? Is it the one that gives you the medications that you think you should be having?
Right.
Or is it somebody that actually challenges you a bit to make some personal changes and to take and empowers you with information for you to take responsibility of the situation?
Right. Yeah. And here I was thinking, when you were saying there's only one healthcare provider that you felt you could trust, it was going to be me.
Of course. I'm just saying, I'm giving the historical data on that. You're putting me on the spot. I'm giving the historical data. Be like, hey, this is my background with it. I had this one person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so that's my goal. To help people advocate for themselves. I do that with my own patients, but hopefully this reaches a broader spectrum. And I'm not saying all providers are bad by any means. And not always going on a medication is the wrong thing. Sometimes it's needed. I hope it's short term. But if not, hopefully we keep you on the lowest dose of medication possible and your lifestyle does the rest. But I just think there's too much of enabling, like I mentioned earlier, of, oh, you don't want to change your diet or your lifestyle? We're going to keep giving you drugs because Big Pharma is great at coming out with, I can't even tell you how many diabetes medications there are, but does anybody fund a cooking class for patients? No. So you know, hopefully you find somebody who, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, just like finding a way to take over,
Yeah.
to take responsibility, take ownership. That's
Yeah.
the word that we were
And
missing.
I think that, because so you talked about like, you know, your history with physicians or going to healthcare providers. Mine was family doctor was my grandmother's doctor, delivered my mother, delivered me, was my doctor. He knew more about my family history than I knew about my family history. And so I just like showed up and went to him. Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. You know, we don't have, you know, that's not commonplace anymore. I hope it gets back to that. I hope it gets back to people who, you know, stick with one provider if able, and who knows their history, who takes the time to know their history, to know their lifestyle and works with them through life. But, you know, we've gotten so far away from the traditional provider. You know, now there's more specialties and subspecialties than ever. And, you know, you don't have that general practitioner who just cares about like, how was your day? Like, what's your stress level? How did you sleep? You know, so, and every healthcare provider you go to is going to take the Hippocratic Oath. And to get a little nerdy again, it's in the oath, prevention is preferable to cure. But yet we just focus on curing everything. We're not focused on preventing anything anymore. And more about Hippocrates. You know, him saying like, you know, thy food is thy medicine is thy food. He had a quote about, you know, give a person the right amount of movement and nourishment and they'll be at their optimal health. I butchered it, but that's, you know, the context. And I just think we're missing that now and we need to get back to it.
I guess, and that opens up for the question, which we could discuss on a later conversation, but the question that I would ask is like, is, you know, you said focus on the cure, but is it cured? Which means that would mean resolving the issue if it's controlled with a slew of pills and medications.
Yeah, no, that's
did
a
we
good
resolve the issue? So I don't think.
Yeah, if you have somebody on 5 diabetes medications and, you know, they're controlled truly, but they're still eating like shit, is that really good healthcare?
Yeah, or can we call that a cure? Hey, you no longer have these diabetes symptoms that, you know, that you were dealing with because you're on these medications, but you haven't fixed the cause. So are you cured? I would say no. We just swept it under the rug, and now it appears you have the illusion of not having to deal with it. So, and I think, you know, for me, transitioning here and wrapping up a little bit, I think for me, my goal is to get people thinking about how do I stick with the preventative stuff, meaning my workouts, my nutrition regimen, and all this slew lifestyle changes, you know, getting more sleep, all this stuff that is going to hopefully and ideally and theoretically speaking should keep me from having to be at the doctor every week.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I think combining these two approaches, the goal would be to start strategizing and helping people like, hey, take ownership of it, and here are some things that you can do and probably should be doing so that you can maximize your health for the long term, remembering that it's something that once you take it up, you never let it go. There's no, if you're looking for quick weight loss tips, if you're looking for, oh, but how do I resolve this yesterday, you know, this is probably the wrong platform for you. We're talking about how do I get on the wagon and stay on the fucking wagon for the rest of my life so that I don't have to get back to it again. You know, it's like, hey, I dropped this weight and it never came back. Yeah. Or I got in this kind of shape and I never got any worse. You know?
So I remember when I first started doing CrossFit, we had to put huge whiteboard, like, what's your goal? Like, why do you CrossFit? Like, what, you know, so what would you say into that? And this can be our last thing, is your lifestyle goal, like long-term goal. What is your personal, not for this, but personal goal of like, why do you work out the way you work out and do everything and choose your diet and your stress management, things like that? What's your goal?
You know, like, I think it's a quality of life thing. And when I say quality of life, it involves certain experiences as well. I'm not just talking about being able to get around without a walker when I'm 90. if I get there, God willing, which that's cool. That's a definitely cool benefit of staying in really good shape and staying strong and all this other stuff. I want that, I want to be one of those people that, and I want other people to join me on this. Like I say, I want this for me, but I want to, impart that desire in other people that, like, oh, I'm 65. Like I train a couple now that the gentleman's 70, she's 65. And when people ask me their age and I tell them, they don't believe me because they can move, they can squat, they can do all this other stuff, that just, they're in better shape than a lot. They play pickleball all the time. They're just super active. They're like, oh, he's 70, she's 65. You're like, really? I'm like, yes, that's what I want for myself. That's goals. I had another person that I worked with. You remember my gym sweetheart, Gail, 81 years old, could squat ass to grass, push 300 pounds on the sled. 81. She could change doors in her house by herself. 81. Like most people are dead. Like this is legit.
Yeah.
The average life expectancy in this country is 76 years old and it's going down. And she's 81 and she's doing shit that most 25-year-olds can't do. So that's how I want to be. I want to be a bad motherfucker until they call me home and they put me in the ground.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I want all that too. But
oh, this is our special guest.
He doesn't want us to talk.
He doesn't want us to talk.
So going back to like the whole I remember my first year of PA school, we had to do cadaver lab, and I just remember dissecting people for education, which I personally think is amazing. I plan to donate my body to science when I die, and my goal is to be the fittest fucking cadaver you've ever seen. I want them, when they are dissecting me, they're like, holy shit.
Look, this is a really well-developed fucking papletus muscle.
Like the traps are enormous, which they are, but but so that's my goal. So no matter when my life ends, I want to be in peak physical shape, whatever that looks like at that time for my life.
And I think there's something to be said other than just that vanity aspect of it, but like I was saying, quality of life means...
Well, I'm not talking about just like, oh, look at her muscles, things that, but it's like her heart's amazing and she's, whatever age, hopefully it's a greater age than, younger age. She doesn't have a lot of just, things you would find in the human body.
Yeah.
So.
And I think to leave it with this, when we talk quality of life from here on forth, if you've made it this far, we're not just talking about the bare minimum of oh, I can stand and sit on my own when I'm 85. That's cool. We want that. But I'm talking about you can sit there and be like, hey, I went on a vacation and I was able to complete this hike and stand on this peak, whatever, because I'm in shape to do that and have that experience. Now you think about that, how does that enrich your life? Your quality of life goes up if you have all these positive experiences.
Yeah.
I went to the beach here and swam out to this thing or did this, whatever, because you're able to. That matters to me. So when I talk about being a bad mofo at 90 and still being like, oh, I don't need a walker and I can do all these things, it's also, I have all these stories because I was able to physically partake in hikes and experiences and vacations that require certain physical traits. And I saw this from this mountaintop because I was able to complete this 6-hour hike up there. That's how I envision it when I try to talk to people about hey, this is for your quality of life. If you have a good vehicle to move around in, aka your body, then you're gonna get further.
Yeah. And some people maybe play with their grandkids, lift up their grandkids, great grandkids, hopefully.
Yep.
If that's
or if you have kids, you help your kid keep up with them. Oh, I'm helping my kid prepare for, I don't know, middle school football, and you can actually go out there and throw the ball around with them. Or you're a mom teaching your girl softball, you're passing that, and you can still swing a bat and teach your daughter about softball. So all these things, I think that when I talk about quality of life, and from here on forth, when you hear us talk about that, this stuff is included in you know what I mean? Life experiences that matter.
Yeah. And
how what we hope to empower you with can contribute to that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we're good for right now.
Well, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram. We are at Achieve the Lifestyle.
You're so much better at this.
And this is Janie Wilkinson, or is it Jane Brown? And I'm Dan, and we are out.
Thank you. I thought you were gonna say something cheesy like at